Welcome to the Success Series podcast, brought to you by the Presto Post. This show is all about the lessons, secrets, top tips, and philosophies of some of the world's most successful people. Each episode is dedicated to one well-known name, be them artists, writers, actors, investors, businessmen or women, and so on, and the practical wisdom they think will be helpful to you. These podcasts are not done by us, however. Instead, we've taken the best clips and soundtracks we can find on the web, polished them up, and distill them into what we like to call nutritious audio snacks. Nutritious audio snacks. The magic number is 7. This is the number of lessons we aim to fit into each podcast. We apologise in advance, though, for the times when we break that rule, which could be more often than not. Today's episode features Ellen Degeneres, an American stand-up comedian, TV host, actress, writer, and producer. She first entered the scene back in 1994 as a star of a popular sitcom rather appropriately named Ellen. But most people know her from a syndicated TV broadcast, The Ellen Degeneres Show, which is regarded by many as America's greatest talk show. The awards both the show and Ellen have won fully back this claim up too. As of 2017, the show has won 59 Daytime Emmy Awards, including 6 for Outstanding Talk Show Entertainment, surpassing the record held by the one and only Oprah Winfrey, and 17 People's Choice Awards, whilst Ellen's tally stands at 30 Emmys and 20 People's Choice Awards. Her homely charm, vivacious spirit, and no bullshit philosophy seems to have hit the perfect note for many different people, which is why when you say the name Ellen, anywhere in America, everyone knows that you're talking about the funny woman on TV with the dazzling blue eyes, that you're talking about the national sweetheart, that you're talking about Ellen Degeneres. This episode features 7 nuggets of wisdom from Ellen, plus one tickling but very fitting bonus near the end. First up, Ellen is talking about embracing your funk, about having a career in spite of yourself, your quirks and your personality traits, about being, quite simply, you.
I get the distinct impression that while you may be this famous talk show host, you are a private person, maybe even shy.
I'm an introvert, for sure, as I have a career despite myself. Because I really am awkward socially. I hate going to big events. I hate having to do small talk. I don't like a lot of attention.
It's bold of you, being an introvert, to not only do this show, but to also put yourself out there, realizing that not everybody's going to like it.
If it costs me, some viewers, and if it costs me some money, I'd rather talk about what I think is important than just be, vanilla and try to be liked by everybody.
That honesty has cost her, especially in 1997 when she famously came out of the closet.
I'm gay.
Only to have Hollywood shut the door. Advertisers pulled out. Within a year, her sitcom was canceled. Her career stopped cold.
I don't think it was a failure, but it certainly gave me a lot of free time for 3 years to sit still and go, okay, who am I without a career? Who am I without people loving me?
Did you feel that you had made a mistake in coming out?
No. Absolutely not. It's
Why?
the best, because I am free. I'm completely able to be exactly who I am. To have to hide anything is just a horrible way to live.
Follow your passion, stay true to yourself, never follow someone else's path unless you're in the woods and you're lost and you see a path, then by all means you should follow that. Don't give advice, it'll come back and bite you when they ask. Don't take anyone's advice. So my advice to you is to be true to yourself and everything will be fine. And I know that a lot of you are concerned about your future, but there's no need to worry. The economy is booming, the job market is wide open. The planet is just fine. It's going to be great. You've already survived a hurricane. What else can happen to you? And as I mentioned before, some of the most devastating things that happen to you will teach you the most. And now you know the right questions to ask for your first job interview, like, is it above sea level? So to conclude my conclusion that I previously concluded in the common cement speech, I guess what I'm trying to say is life is like one big Mardi Gras. But instead of showing your boobs, show people your brain. And if they like what they see, you'll have more beads than you know what to do with.
Number 2. Be a radiant source of positive energy.
This energy, I mean, you can feel it in here. And you've talked to, people come from very, very far away. They fly here, they make, plans to, this is their vacation or their trip, and they come in here and bring this positive energy and this love and this joy, and I get to feel that every single day. It's the most amazing feeling that energy is coming at me every day, and I hope I give it back to them, and I hope they get that, and I think if I do that every single day, and I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like it's why I started out as a comedian. I started out to make people happy and make people feel good. And I'm doing it on a larger scale. And I think I hope I can do this for a long, long, long time.
Número 3, be honest.
You did a very successful sitcom, you then came out, and then it was cancelled. Has this show sort of saved you, do you think, in a way?
I think what saved me is me being honest. And I think I somehow had the courage to do something and say something that I knew would possibly end my career. And instead of making business more important, I made my soul and my life more important. And I think by being truthful and by being honest, that saved me. And then I was given the opportunity to do something where I could actually just be myself and people could see who I am. And if they respond to it, great, and if they don't, great. And they've responded.
Number 4, be grateful.
The big breakthrough was in 1986. You were on with Johnny Carson. First time with Johnny Carson, and he loved you. And you did a routine about calling God on the phone.
Right.
I think he put you on hold, didn't he?
Well, it was a big place. People talk about praying and talking to God all the time, but I just thought it would be great if you could have a phone conversation, if you could actually just reach God somehow, if you could just pick up the phone and call God.
If you were calling God today, what would you say?
Thank you.
Oh, Ellen.
I got nothing but gratitude. My whole life. My whole life is just, I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky. And I feel it every day.
Number 5, what is the best way to break the ice, to lift your mood, to energize a room? Like you don't give a damn? Dance.
I was talking to some of your audience before the show today, and I asked them what they love about you, and what they said unanimously was your energy and your dancing. Where did the dancing start?
It really started as such a ridiculous accident. It was kind of, when I did my sitcom, when I was introduced to the audience before we would tape the show, I just have always loved music, and I always loved to dance. I mean, how do you not dance when you hear music? That's just sort of who I am. When I hear music, I dance. And then it became where I would dance into the audience, and then it just kind of, I saw the audience respond to it in a way that it freed them up to just dance with me. And I think people come here almost, it doesn't really matter who's on the show, it's just a place to let go and be free. And I mean, everyone in this audience is, a stranger to the other. People are from all over the world, and they come here, it's daytime, it's not dark in here, they're not drunk as far as I know. They may be, I don't know, but, and they're all dancing. Thirsty. And people just stop dancing. I think people grow up and they stop playing games, they stop playing hide and seek, they stop, we just grow up and we get so serious and stop playing and we stop dancing and we get busy with our lives, and the only time we dance is maybe at a wedding, and maybe if we're drunk, and maybe if there's 20 other people out there, and nobody goes to clubs anymore. And so it's a place to just, and to me dancing represents just freedom and letting go and having fun and being a kid again. So I think that's why they respond to it, and that's why I do it.
Number 6, remember every day to remind your loved ones just how much you love them, because you never know.
Yeah, I'd never lost anybody. I mean, my grandfather died when I was a little girl, but I didn't really know him. I wasn't close, so I didn't really, and I didn't go to the funeral. But my girlfriend had been killed in a car accident, and we were living together at the time. My brother's band was performing, and we had broken up. We had fought a lot. She was trying to get me to come back home. I acted like I couldn't hear her because the music was too loud. I was planning on moving back in. I just was trying to teach her a lesson, and I was staying with some friends. So I just acted like I couldn't hear, and I was being really dismissive of her. She had left before us, and as we were driving home, we saw a car, and it was split in two, and we heard sirens behind us, so it had just happened. Nobody was there yet, and we just kept going. And I found out the next morning that it was her in the car. And so that, of course, made me feel like I should have gone home with her that night. She wouldn't have been with that person. I should have stopped. Maybe she would have, all kinds of things. But a lot of guilt. I think it made me realize how fragile and how easily you can lose somebody. I mean, just literally in an instant, she just was gone. And it was really hard, but it really did, it shifted my entire focus and my life. I lived in this tiny basement apartment where you couldn't even stand up fully. It was, the ceilings were so low, it was like you couldn't stand up. And I had a mattress on the floor, and the basement was infested with fleas. There were just fleas everywhere. And I remember thinking, it just seems so ridiculous that this young 23-year-old girl who, I was just living with was gone, and fleas are here. And so I just thought it would be great to just pick up the phone and call up God and talk about this. And so I just picked up a pen, and there were no scratch out, start over. It just was written. The whole thing came out, the whole conversation, the whole phone call. And when I finished writing, I just thought, Johnny Carson would love that. I know he would appreciate that, and I'm going to do that on the show.
Number 7. If you don't know what you want to do, don't worry too much, because nobody does.
When I finished school, I was completely lost, and by school I mean middle school, but I went ahead and finished high school anyway, and I had no ambition. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did everything from I shucked oysters, I was a hostess, I was a bartender, I was a waitress, I painted houses, I sold vacuum cleaners. I had no idea. And I thought I'd just finally settle on some job, and I would make enough money to pay my rent, maybe have basic cable, maybe not. I didn't really have a plan. My point is that by the time I was your age, I really thought I knew who I was, but I had no idea. Like, for example, when I was your age, I was dating men. So what I'm saying is, when you're older, most of you will be gay. Is anybody writing this stuff down? Parents? Anyway, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and the way I ended up on this path was from a very tragic event. I was maybe 19, and my girlfriend at the time was killed in a car accident. And I passed the accident, and I didn't know it was her, and I kept going. And I found out shortly after that it was her. And I was living in a basement apartment. I had no money. I had no heat, no air. I had a mattress on the floor, and the apartment was infested with fleas. And I was soul searching. I was like, why is she suddenly gone and there are fleas here? I don't understand. There must be a purpose, and wouldn't it be so convenient if we could just pick up the phone and call God and ask these questions? And I started writing, and what poured out of me was an imaginary conversation with God, which was one-sided. And I finished writing it, and I looked at it, and I said to myself, and I hadn't even been doing stand-up ever. There was no club in town. I said, I'm going to do this on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. At the time, he was the king. And I'm going to be the first woman in the history of the show to be called over to sit down And several years later, I was the first woman in the history of the show, and only woman in the history of the show, to sit down because of that phone conversation with God that I wrote. And I started this path of stand-up, and it was successful, and it was great, but it was hard because I was trying to please everybody, and I had this secret that I was keeping, that I was gay, and I thought if people found out, they wouldn't like me, they wouldn't laugh at me. Then my career turned into, I got my own sitcom, and that was very successful, another level of success, and I thought, what if they find out I'm gay, then they'll never watch, and this was a long time ago. This was when we just had white presidents. But anyway, this was back many years ago. And I finally decided that I was living with so much shame and so much fear that I just couldn't live that way anymore. And I decided to come out and make it creative, and my character would come out at the same time. And it wasn't to make a political statement. It wasn't to do anything other than to free myself up from this heaviness that I was carrying around. And I just wanted to be honest. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I can lose my career. I did. I lost my career. The show was canceled after 6 years without even telling me. I read it in the paper. The phone didn't ring for 3 years. I had no offers. Nobody wanted to touch me at all. And yet I was getting letters from kids that almost committed suicide but didn't because of what I did. And I realized that I had a purpose, and it wasn't just about me, and it wasn't about celebrity, but I felt like I was being punished, and it was a bad time. I was angry, I was sad, and then I was offered a talk show. And the people that offered me the talk show tried to sell it, and most stations didn't want to pick it up. Most people didn't want to buy it because they thought nobody would watch me. And really, when I look back on it, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it was so important for me to lose everything because I found out what the most important thing is to be true to yourself. And ultimately, that's what's gotten me to this place. I don't live in fear. I'm free. I have no secrets. And I know I'll always be okay because no matter what, I know who I am. So, in conclusion, when I was younger, I thought success was something different. I thought, when I grow up, I want to be famous. I want to be a star. I want to be in movies. When I grow up, I want to see the world, drive nice cars. I want to have groupies, to quote the Pussycat Dolls. How many people thought it was boobies, by the way? It's not. It's groupies. But my idea of success is different today. And as you grow, you'll realize definition of success changes. For many of you, today, success is being able to hold down 20 shots of tequila. For me, the most important thing in your life is to live your life with integrity and not to give in to peer pressure to try to be something that you're not. To live your life as an honest and compassionate person, to contribute in some way. So to conclude my conclusion, follow your passion, stay true to yourself, never follow someone else's path unless you're in the woods and you're lost and you see a path, then by all means you should follow that. Don't give advice, it'll come back and bite you when they ask. Don't take anyone's advice. So my advice to you is to be true to yourself, and everything will be fine. And I know that a lot of you are concerned about your future, but there's no need to worry. The economy is booming. The job market is wide open. The planet is just fine. It's going to be great. You've already survived a hurricane. What else can happen to you? And as I mentioned before, some of the most devastating things that happen to you will teach you the most. And now you know the right questions to ask for your first job interview, like, is it above sea level? So to conclude my conclusion that I previously concluded in the common cement speech, I guess what I'm trying to say is life is like one big Mardi Gras. But instead of showing your boobs, show people your brain. And if they like what they see, you'll have more beads than you know what to do with. And you'll be drunk most of the time. So to the Katrina class of 2009, I say congratulations. And if you don't remember a thing I said today, remember this. You're going to be okay. Dum, doo-doom, doom, doom. Just dance.
And now for the bonus. Who better to turn to than Ellen Degeneres for advice on what to do before the end of the world? Here then are Ellen's tips for what to do before Armageddon.
A lot going on in the world right now. There's hurricanes in North Korea, and Rachel picked Brian on The Bachelorette, and
It's a lot to think about, really. But you're here now, and this show is a happy place. You're in a happy place. What we need to do is we need to find the positivity in every situation. That is why I came up with some tips for what to do before the end of the world. I call them Ellen's tips for what to do before the end of the world. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. It just split like that. Here's tip number 1. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't stress yourself out over little things. And don't sweat the big stuff either. In fact, don't sweat at all. It's gross. It really is. And then you smell, and then that's stressful, and you're back where you started from. All right. Tip number 2, travel more. See the world. Book a trip with a great destination. You know, it's a great place to visit is Burbank. Burbank. So many things here. We have an IKEA. There's not one but 2 Jamba Juices. Yep. And I'm not plugging this city because my show is here. Burbank's got 4 stars on Yelp. Look it up. Yeah. Tip number 3, watch the Ellen Degeneres Show. Now, this one is just a suggestion. My show is informative, it's entertaining, and if you weren't watching the show right now, you'd miss out on all these helpful tips. So you're welcome. Here's tip number 4, tell someone that you love them. And let me explain. The people that you love know you know it, and they know it, so that's a waste of time. You don't need to tell them. You have to tell people that don't know you love them. So for instance, look at someone next to you right now and tell them you love them. Good. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Hug. Hug each other. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Hug. All right, make out. No. All right, and finally, tip number 5, laugh. No, don't clap, laugh. No, I really mean, laugh. All right. See, doesn't that feel good? That feels good.
This podcast is sponsored by, that's right, nobody. Oh, you say, how do we make our money then? Well, if you like this podcast and would like to see more of them, there are many ways you can support it. You can leave a review on iTunes, our website, or wherever else the podcast appears. You can share it with friends on social media or on your own blog or podcast. You can purchase any books we recommend via the Amazon links on our website, in which we'll receive a small commission. Or you can support us directly with a donation. You can do that at prestopost.org/support. And as always, thank you for listening.